What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and now we have been unleashed. The Panderverse has been unleashed upon us. I can't recommend the episode enough because it goes absolutely scorched earth on Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, artificial intelligence, college, all of the hot button issues. It just absolutely expertly takes them all down, goes about it in a hilarious word, hilarious way. Obviously, the race swapping, the pandering, all this kind of stuff is just in perfect South Park form. And now we've seen a couple threads come out. I want to share exactly how hilarious all of this is. You can see this thread by Owl of Athena writing, the latest South Park is brilliant. Welcome to the Panderverse. I'm dying. This is Cartman. And the other photo is of white-collar workers who don't know how to do stuff because they went to college. And handymen are rich because they can't be replaced by AI. This is so true. On the channel, I've talked about a lot of things, in particular, getting into the trades. Parents, trying to tell parents, hey, when I went to when I was in high school, the trades were looked at. They were for people who were bad who had bad grades. That's how it was. I'm not saying that's how I viewed it, but that's how our guidance counselors were. All of them went to Madison University, and if you had anything higher than a 3.5 GPA, you had to apply into Madison. You had to get into Madison. That was the key. That's how all of our guidance counselors were. I found out later that they all went to Madison, had $100,000 in debt, and were making $28,000 a year. So you learn. I graduated with something like $70,000 in college debt. My friends that went to HVAC school or learned a trade had $100,000 in the bank. They were buying their first house when I was moving back in with my parents, or this kind of stuff. So they were starting families in their mid-20s. I wasn't even thinking about it financially till my mid-30s. I'm not saying one is inherently better than the other, but I think that more people need to. There's certainly a lot of junk you can learn in college. Sure, you want to go learn computer programming, even that's at risk against AI. You want to learn hard science, you want to learn accounting, you want to learn chemistry, biology. These are things that are still valued in college. There's a lot of garbage. I had a friend, I'm not kidding, that got a degree in dead languages. They were something like $200K in debt, and the only job they could get was a adjunct university professor. There is plenty of stories. But anyway, then they went on to go after a college because they wanted to get their money back. They order a catapult, which arrives disassembled, so they have to pay the handyman, who's now rich, $20,000 to assemble it. You see, there's a handyman service that comes in a limo. It's so perfect. And then there's PC Principal lecturing the other boys about how they're just racist when they complain that Cartman has been replaced by a black feminist, just like they were upset when Indiana Jones was replaced by a woman. And then there's a scene where they have Disney executives talking about how they have pandered so much, they've opened a doorway to the Panderverse, and how she and who is she now? You see this like Indiana Jones, all this stuff. You have this guy here. Some social media platforms you see here. Some social media platforms I just bought. Instagram. You see all this kind of stuff. Then Outkick covers it. For years, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone have been one of the few duos in Hollywood to call them as they see them. The trend continues with the series' latest special, South Park Joining the Panderverse, which puts all kinds of things in the show's crosshairs, from Disney's habit of pandering to audiences, the laziness of the multiverses in movies, and even the ills of AI and the declining usefulness of college education. I mean, I could tell you when I went to college, I graduated high school in 2001. Okay, that's how old I am. Even like every job that paid more than 40 grand a year that wasn't a trade required a college education. By the time I completed college and had 2 years on the job, that had already started to change. And now, that was 15 years ago. I remember when I finished college, I decided to go get my MBA, my master's degree while I was working, and the CEO of my company was like, "What are you doing?" I mean, at that time, I was making very good money. He's like, "What are you wasting money on that for? You already know everything I'm going to teach you." But I was like, "Well, yeah, but if I ever want to get a different job, a lot of these higher end, upper echelon, 6-figure jobs, they require an MBA." Now that's just, I mean, sure, you want to go work at some, Fortune 500 company that, they hire all these morons out of Stanford and Harvard and all that stuff. Sure. Okay. You have to do that. If your dream is to work for Goldman Sachs, you're probably not getting there on your wit. They say the long running series has done a few of these specials in recent years, which have covered topics like the COOF and even the show itself being stuck in a legal battle between streaming platforms, which is true. But joining the Panderverse seems to get the most attention before it's released because it dared to call out the ridiculousness of lazy flipping characters, races, and genders in the name of pandering. Some of the key topics, there's some light spoilers here, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. First of all, the Panderverse mocks Hollywood's obsession with the multiverse. Obviously, South Park front and center in the special was the Panderverse. Cartman keeps having nightmares that everyone he knows is going to be replaced by a racially diverse woman, ones with a habit of constantly talking about the ills of the patriarchy. Now, why would that be a concern? It's not like Hollywood's favorite thing to do or anything. His nightmares come to fruition when he swaps places with a black female version of himself from another universe. Are you following? Because his entire plot was designed to do two things. The first was to point out the laziness of the multiverse storylines that are a dime a dozen in Hollywood these days. The second was to call out the absurdity and laziness of, again, flipping characters, race, and gender. It's eventually revealed that the Panderverse was created by Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. She did this using something called the Panderstone to create movies that would appeal to everyone simply by swapping out the genders and races of characters. This inadvertently leads to an alternate universe version of Kennedy, which is essentially Cartman, swapping places with the real Kennedy. This version of her tries to change everything about the universe by demanding that everything be changed by telling everyone to put a chick in it or make her gay. Is that a little confusing? And actually not really. I mean, we're used to that, right? We're used, that's like normal Hollywood. I follow that completely. While it's a little dense, the story serves up to tee up an opportunity to goof on one of the greatest multiverse offenders, Disney. The episode touches on the continued decline of Disney and places the blame on the habit of pandering to audiences. Towards the end of the special, Kennedy explains her rationale for this to Cartman. This was one instance where I thought the show may have missed the mark a little. Kennedy says that she was pandering to an audience in a bid to fix racism and sexism she saw in the world. This, she said, was a reaction to hate mail she'd received for swapping characters, genders, and races. Hate mail is jokingly attributed to Cartman. The show argued that the recent trend is pandering is in a feedback loop, one in which people complain about swapping characters, races, and genders, leading to Hollywood feeling obligated to fight this criticism by doubling down, and it goes on forever and ever. This had been the first instance of a brand. Well, there had to be a first instance of the brand pandering for this to be criticism. It's a chicken or egg thing. The pandering had to come first for there to be criticism of it. So it couldn't have started as a reaction to the criticism, and that's fair. Maybe they were facing their own criticism internally when they added all these racial quotas to award shows and things of that nature. But, ultimately, this is correct. It's not, it's absolutely not a reaction to criticism unless it's self-inflicted. The show places blame on both sides of the argument, the people who pander and the people who loathe it. I get the argument, but it doesn't seem the argument holds much water. It also says it wasn't all about Hollywood and pandering. The special also touched on how technology has caused people's skills to atrophy and how college educations will become increasingly worthless in the rise of AI. We've seen this as of late. They don't make college-educated folks like they used to, and South Park was more than happy to poke fun at this. You're college-educated, and that's the third misspelling in this single article alone, Outkick. And that's coming from me, a guy who can barely read. The B story involves Randy Marsh trying to fix an oven door. Because of a reliance on technology and 8 years of college spent studying geology, he calls the handyman to fix it. However, the handymen are so in demand because nobody knows how to fix anything. This leads to them becoming increasingly rich, while the college-educated end up looking for work outside of Home Depot because they don't have any actual skills. Like that's a very real future for a lot of these college degrees. I thought this was a funnier of the two main stories and had even stronger social commentary. While everyone, for the most part, can agree on how ridiculous pandercasting is, the idea that the only people who will be able to make money in the future are those with the ability to fix things is actually, I would agree that that's actually kind of based and true. It wasn't the series' finest hour, but it was certainly well done in terms of the show willing to tackle issues. I mean, for me, South Park is, it's been hit or miss for years. Like all long-running shows, there's kind of that like golden era. Just like you look at The Simpsons, like season 3 through 7, gold 3 through 8, Family Guy, seasons like 2 through 7 or 8. They run, The Simpsons are on over 30 years. South Park's got to be over 20 years, right, by now. But one thing that South Park has done consistently well is, point the finger accurately at both sides, even when they miss the mark, which is what keeps me coming back. Their post-election special was absolutely poignant on the point, I remember. And so I highly recommend checking out the Panderverse special this weekend. For a good old-fashioned, just make some popcorn, have a beer, roast, pack a bowl of oregano, and enjoy yourself. And for once, just enjoy some good old-fashioned comedy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.